But universities have become filled with a lot of administrators. I'm not saying Illinois, but in general, it's been a pattern that has been happening for multiple decades. Universities have also hiked tuition for multiple decades. University of Illinois have not done that. That's something that is quite. I thank you for doing that, but also
you're very welcome.
Also the Illinois commitment, which is also a great thing. And so across the board, more administration, more tuition, a lot of the debt, which is you cannot declare bankruptcy because you cannot get rid of it, which creates an atmosphere for young people that it's hard because they cannot necessarily do the things they want to do. They will need to focus on doing that job that is high paying. Sometimes people say it's STEM, questionable, depending on a lot of the STEM majors don't have the demand that people say they have. So what's the outlook for, first, how do we get back to future in the sense of how do we get back to people actually doing things they want and not necessarily having this debt on the shoulder that, I think I want to try being a soccer player to play for Manchester United because maybe there's someone who's actually that good. But no, I want to have to do computer science because that's the thing. How do we get back to the future?
Well, you covered a lot of ground in that question, right? And you're touching on some things that are really important. And let me, first of all, congratulate both of you for being here at University of Illinois because we are committed to affordability, which is key. You mentioned cost, right? You mentioned debt. To access, which means that we don't want the doors to be closed for young people who want opportunity and are ready to take advantage of those opportunities, but for whatever reason, socioeconomic, family circumstances, are unable to do that. So we want to open our doors wide. It has to be affordable. We're a public institution, and we want to operate at scale. So my simple mind is it's better to have two people get a world-class education than one person, right? So we want to create scale as well, large scale, lots of people having opportunities. So the University of Illinois is a good place on all of the fronts. We've frozen tuition 6 of the last 8 years. Frozen, 0 increases in tuition for in-state residents and very minor for out-of-state residents. The 2 years we didn't, it was like 1.8%, so massively sub-inflationary. So there's a commitment here to affordability, which is important. And after we look at our graduates, they have less debt than national norms. They pay down their debt faster than national norms. They get better jobs or higher paying jobs than national norms. So we're on the right side of the force on all of these terms. But it is tough to be a young person coming into a setting like this where there are opportunities for sure, but there are impediments too. Cost is one thing. Not everybody gets a free ride. The Illinois commitment's one where, if a family earns less than a median salary, then the tuition is covered as a guarantee for that for 4 years. And we've increased our financial aid significantly, like almost, massively. It's now $260 million a year, which is more than the federal and the state combined. So we care. What I'm saying is we care about the things that you've raised. And you started saying, administration has grown and with sort of an implication that we're getting less efficient. We're working hard to get more efficient at this university. It's a complex system. We've got, dorms and cafeterias. We run an airport. We've got classes everywhere. We've got facilities. It's like a city in a way. We have 3 police forces that we operate on. We've got, janitorial services. We have to do all the financial aspects of new buildings like this beautiful building we're in now. That was not complex things. So you do need administrators to create the setting so that wonderful instructors and faculty have access to the kinds of capabilities that enable learning to proceed well, even in the depths of a pandemic. So with all of that said, this is a really fine institution. The way my mind works. There's this famous management book, You Want to Go From Good to Great. Maybe you've heard
Jim
of
Collins,
Jim
yeah.
Collins, okay. So for me, it's like, okay, we're great. What's next? We want to go from great to magnificent, because a public, research-intensive, comprehensive university in a state that's got a total of 95,000 students, right? It's like if it was a city, it would be the 9th biggest town in the state of Illinois. So we're big, we're excellent. We've got all of these relationships and partnerships, a legacy of contributions as long as your arm. I could list them. Sounds like you know them all, but
Probably more, yeah.
but maybe indoor air conditioning is one, right? Did you know that? First created here. So imagine, living in parts of India without indoor air conditioning. So transformative legacy contributions, and more to come, because society's facing a lot of challenging issues that your generation is going to have to, some of them left by my generation, right, that created some issues that are going to, resource constraints, still conflict resolution, obviously climate, and that's kind of my field, or geosciences, limitations on what can be done, and we've got to actually manage forward so that we can have human welfare writ large on a finite planet. My research was in sort of geophysics, so I care a lot about all these things. And for me, it's universities like this that will be the places where these solutions will be born and deployed into society. So you might say, well, what about Google, Amazon, Facebook, etc.? They don't have the same motivations. They're great, they can do things, they can, invest significantly, mergers, etc. But to have all of the disciplines, chemistry, mathematics, biology, physics, engineering, humanities, history, art, music, culture, dance, ethics, that family of disciplines, and with young people coming through all the time, is the recipe for problem solving. It's always been the recipe for problem solving. And to do that with this kind of spirit of generous collaboration, exemplified by COVID, really exemplified by COVID, is the recipe for taking on the challenges of the next generation and the one. I'm a new grandfather, so I care
Congrats.
as much about the one after your generation as this one. So thank you. So the coverage of the intellectual heft, the scale of it, the partnerships, provides a petri dish where we can kind of, what's the phrase, the best way to predict the future is to invent it. We have to invent, we have to create a healthful future going forward, where there are exciting jobs, professional pathways, opportunities to contribute, importantly, back. And education is at the core of all of that. It's at the absolute core of all of that. Education with new knowledge creation and dissemination. If you've got the skill sets, and so to have all of these skill sets, you just think about artificial intelligence, needs ethics. You need ethics. You need history. You need, I've obviously worked a lot in, geosciences, so sustainability was a thing that I really pushed when I was at the National Science Foundation. But if you think about sustainability, we could have a sustained, miserable future if we're not careful, right? It could be like the Blade Runner movie, if you've ever seen that, right?
Right.
Not exactly something we would want to aspire to. So we need a future where people can thrive, families can thrive, and there's sort of human welfare writ large, which means we got to take on health, we got to take on technology, we've got to take on partnerships, conflict. We've got to make sure we don't leave people behind in the dust with no opportunities, because that's how you create tension in society. Right. We're seeing that, still. So these are very honorable places to be. So getting back to, is it going downhill or is it spiraling down? The U of I is not. The U of I is going from great to magnificent.
And I think...
and you're going to be part of it.
That's right.
David.
And having your job is not an easy thing. I think you seem to enjoy it. I think you've been doing a good job, and we're both quite grateful to be at this place. And like you say, the place is not, it's like you said, like it's great, but it could be better.
It's not perfect. That's for
it's
sure.
Not perfect,
It's
and I think that having that mentality, it's important because, like you said, universities could do things that no other big company could do. And I think getting back to doing basic research and letting people do and kind of doing the type of things they kind of want to do, have that diversity. It's that will allow
exactly.
to get us back